In our continuing catch up with great international cinema, a thing we do here at Breakfast All Day, we're now talking about the latest from Japanese master Kore-eda. It's called Monster. Alonso will tell us about it.
友達は友達だけど、みんなの前で話しかけない。
This, oddly enough, pairs really well with the film we talked about recently, The Teacher's Lounge, in that it is mostly set around a school and also deals with issues of perspective and getting to the bottom of things. If Kore-eda hadn't already made a movie called The Truth, he could have used that one here. So Sakura Ando stars as a single mother whose son goes to school, to a nearby elementary school. She's concerned about things that he is telling her that she seems to think is happening, and thinks that he's being bullied by one of the school teachers there. But then later we see all of the events from the point of view of the school teacher. And then again, we see all the events from the point of view of the kid. Everything is sort of framed by a fire and a hurricane. And everything that happens between those two things is sort of what we come to understand over the course of this movie. So on the one hand, it's this brilliant kind of puzzle box that you're sort of undoing, and you see a thing happen and you later really understand the significance of it, or even a noise in the background that just seems like it's just some weird non sequitur thing has a payoff later. But more than that, it is this really beautiful film about growing up. It goes into some unexpected emotional areas that I was not ready for, that really caught me by surprise and I found very moving. But it's just, it is this sort of great portrait of how we so often don't really know what's going on in anybody else's life. There's that meme that goes around on the internet, like people you encounter every day are fighting battles you don't know about. It sounds hokey, but it's true. Like people have their stuff that they're dealing with, and what you see and what you perceive and what you've been told may not necessarily be the whole truth of the whole story. And Kore-eda weaves this together really brilliantly. The performances are great. Eita Nagayama plays the teacher, and Soya Kurokawa plays the kid, and Hinata Hiiragi as his friend, are all really great. And I just got completely subsumed into the world of this movie and kind of unlocking the secrets that lie within it. It's a gorgeous film.
It really is. And it's about, as you say, how you never know what's happening in somebody else's life, but it's also about how we might get a narrative about somebody or something and just cling to it and not want to deviate from it. So we have an idea in mind, like, oh, this person's trouble, or, oh, I heard so-and-so did this. And that's the thing about them that sticks in your brain that may or may not be accurate or relevant in any way. Like, you think you know somebody and you're like, oh, of course this person's trouble. So to get the perspectives, it does have this kind of Rashomon structure to it. But within each of those stories, there is such subtlety and so many great details. Like in the first section, you see that this kid is living with his mom, right? She's a single mom. The father has died. And just little things in like the production design of their kind of cluttered apartment say so much about them and about her and about how she's just doing the best to keep it all together on her own. And then you see details about that later on that will make sense even more and become even more relevant. I thought that the teacher was so great because he is under so much pressure to be whoever somebody else wants him to be at all times, and can never truly be himself. He's a newer teacher, not unlike the teacher in the teacher's lounge, right? He's a newer teacher and they all know each other. So he is trying to prove himself, but he also is malleable to everybody else's expectations of him and of this place. And so you don't really get to know him for a little bit. And then once you do, it makes you reassess everything you saw prior to it. The same with the principal. You think you know the principal, and so you learn some different things about her as the film goes along. So I thought it was really beautiful, and I really want to ask you what you think happens at the end, but I cannot.
Yeah, I think it is. And you know what? I don't even want to say. I don't even want to
say
like,
it.
we're talking around so much because there's such the sense of discovery in this movie is so exciting that we're trying not to spoil anything. But yeah, take the ride. It is so beautiful, and Kore-eda has such it's such a humane filmmaker in terms of really understanding people and understanding the contradictions of people, and you know the kind of like in Shoplifters, you know, we took the sort of people that you would just walk by in the street and try not to make eye contact with, and gives you the full rich tapestry of their lives. And here, yeah, you have these characters often who have made assumptions about somebody else, or are operating under like a thing they heard once, and then kind of peeling back those layers to be like, no, this is what they're about, this is who they are. So yeah, it's gorgeous. This is the first film since Mabarosi that he didn't write. But the screenplay by Yuji Sakamoto is terrific, and Ruichi Sakamoto, this is his final film score, recycling some piano pieces from earlier works, because by the time he had gotten the gig, he was already very ill, and the film is dedicated to his memory.
I'm so glad you mentioned the score. I was going to mention it because it's so achingly beautiful, and it's just the perfect accompaniment to all of the emotional highs and lows, and to this ending that I'm trying not to talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you also mentioned Shoplifters too. Yeah, because similarly here, there's no judgment, and there's a great, not just a willingness, but a yearning to understand the truth of people and how they operate and what motivates them, and all that. So it's a really, really lovely film. It is in theaters, I want to say, right? I don't think it's streaming yet. It has been out for a couple of months now, here and there. It is not Japan's entry in the Academy Awards, though.
Boo.
So I don't know why, but it's not.
Wait, did they submit Godzilla -1?
Perfect Days.
Or okay, well that's okay. That fair enough. They had a very good year in Japan. They also had Boy and the Heron, so you know, a lot of options there.
So what is your number then on Monster?
I'll say like a 9.2. I thought this was really beautiful. And if you haven't seen The Truth, by the way, which is the film that Kore-eda made in Europe with Catherine Deneuve and Juliette Binoche and Ethan Hawke, I feel like it kind of fell by the wayside. It was like a pandemic movie. If you missed it, check it out.
We reviewed that here, didn't we?
I want to say yes. I know I reviewed it for the Wrap because it premiered at Venice.
I can't imagine that we would let a Catherine Deneuve movie come and go and not talk about it, right?
No.
Right? Yeah, I will say like a 9 as well. And it definitely a movie that I'd like to revisit at some point, just to sort of follow up with all those details that you know. And also just, it captures so well being a kid in the meanness and the cruelty, but also like the sense of possibility. So it gets that right too, that like none of the kids feel like precocious kids. They all feel real in terms of like the bullying that goes on here, and the innocence and the hope that's possible as well. So
and even a lot of the choices that the other teachers make on this guy's behalf aren't necessarily corrupt as much as they reflect a certain Japanese style of business and, you know, like etiquette that sort of, you know, kind of collapses upon itself.
Monster, go find it.